Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends X-Men 2-pack of Marvel's Havoc and Marvel's Polaris. Not to be confused with any other Havoc, which is a very generic name, and I guess there's another character named Polaris, or Polaris, however you want to pronounce it. There's a car from the, I want to say early 2000s named the Polaris, so maybe that's what the confusion is. I don't know, but that's what we have. It's a very 90s looking package, as in very 90s looking, like intentionally, and I love it. That's great. I think everybody who collects these figures, not everybody of course, but most people can at least relate to the 90s a little bit and the artwork, so that's awesome. And this 2-pack has two very 90s characters in it, and so that's awesome. And there was a lot of potential for these to be really good, and that's awesome. Did the figures end up awesome? Well, that's what we're here for. So let's go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. We are going to cover both figures in one review. We're going to go through each one individually, and then I'll just give kind of like an overall 2-pack kind of summary at the end. So here we have Polaris. If you call her Polaris, well, that's okay. I'm not going to. She is 16.5 centimeters to the top of her hair, closer to, let's say, 15.5 to where her head would be, not counting the poof. That's about 6 inches and a little shy of 6.5 inches. So it's your standard Marvel Legends body. First initial thoughts on this figure is, how did they screw up so many simple things? Question mark. That's my first thought. More of a question. And my second thought is, there are some things that are really nice still. Firstly, the X logo on her chesticle, it's clean as heck. I mean, obviously it's not hand painted, it's tampography, and that's fine, that's perfect, it looks great. And then the line work down here is pretty clean, right on her abdomen. The line work up here is fuzzy as heck, not very good. The paintwork for her ankles, holy macaroni Batman, that is nasty. Like, it doesn't match the yellow wise, and there's blue poking through all over. Like, not cleanly poking through, just muddy looking. It's gross. Disgusting. The figure looks nasty because of it. Also, the two yellows right here and here are painted, and they're not the same color. How did they manage that? It's like they were trying. I don't know. One yellow, two yellow. Both painted on top of blue plastic. Yeah, the materials are different. The material's not going to account for that much of a change in the color. They screwed something up. Somebody was sitting at a table painting this part, another person was painting this part, they didn't have the same colors. Nobody checked it. It's disgusting. It's gross. Her neck is also painted, and there's blue poking through on the yellow and on the flesh tones. Luckily, that's hard to see, so no big deal there. The face, I have to say, looks a lot better than I thought it was going to. That's not to say it looks good. She's supposed to be pretty attractive, like classically 90s attractive female is what they were going for when they designed her. And this figure makes her not look like that. It's not terrible, the paintwork's clean, the eyeshadow looks good, the lips, eyes, everything's relatively good, but the overall composition of her face is pretty frumpy and not particularly appealing looking. And I'm not, like, let's not go into that, oh, he wants the figure to be sexy. No, that's not really the point. I want it to match the character, which happens to be a cartoon version of a sexy woman. So that's definitely a bummer. The hair, I get it. She's supposed to have this really frizzy kind of hair. I don't hate it as much as some people seem to. I think it's okay sculpt-wise. There's a lot going on there, so I'll give them that. But the way they decided to do the shading is it's just not good. Let me zoom out so you can get it. There's like just two big spots of bright green that's really ugly looking, and then the rest is just not. So on the front, you get the impression that they actually just did like shading, like dry brushing on top to give the light green on top of the dark green. Fine, no problem. But they didn't, it's just in spots. So it's just all around a half-assed figure if I ever saw one. Very disappointing from an aesthetic standpoint. Not absolutely terrible, but not great. I'll give it a 6. It'll look well enough. No, it'll look okay, good enough on a shelf. It's not good looking. If you get close to it, it's gonna get dramatically less good looking. So definitely a bummer. As far as accessories go, we'll just run all the accessories right now, because she has the 2 open hands that come on her in the package and 2 fist hands, which it's pretty nice. I like that. And then we got her little bubble effects, which are okay enough, I guess, for Polaris. That's fine. We've seen these bubble effects about 1 trillion times now, and she's also got them. And then, if you didn't think that was enough bubble effects, we get the exact same bubble effects for Havoc. His are yellow, but they are clearly bubble effects. Now Havoc is apparently shooting yellow bubble effects, and I get it, they kind of draw it sometimes sort of with like a bubbly look in the comics, but let's just note Havoc's power is not shooting yellow bubbles. out of his hands in concentric circles. So not the greatest accessories. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because we got some hands and a couple of effects, and it could have been nothing, so 5. But it definitely could have been better, like seriously better. Like I made a Havoc figure when I was very first starting out customizing for all of about 10 cents. I made some awesome accessories out of some clear plastic and a Sharpie. It's not hard. Hasbro could have done better. They didn't. So that, you know what? 4 out of 10. Take that, Hasbro. 4 out of 10. All right, on to the articulation, which should be no surprise. We've seen almost all of these parts before, or at least something very close to them. The head is on a ball peg on top of a hinge. We have crazy lollipop syndrome, but because the hair is so intrusive, it's not really going to allow you to see that, so that is okay. The head is not technically too high on the body, so that is okay. The hinge will allow you to utilize that broken lollipop neck, and so you don't probably want to use that hinge. Just leave the head like that, turn it side to side, and you'll be okay. For the shoulders, what kind of range do we have going up? Better than horizontal, that's really good. We have full rotation, of course. We do have these shoulder pads up here though, so it's going to be limiting there, but that's to be expected. No bicep swivel, but you do get your swivel out of the elbow joint, which does go a little bit better than 90, so as far as the female Marvel Legends go, that's not bad. For the wrists, of course, we have our floating little cuff. Then we have a swivel and a hinge, nothing special there. How does the diaphragm joint work? I don't know, let's find out. It's one of the good ones. It's really good, very nicely done. I think they should just utilize a good diaphragm joint like that all the time. Better than an ab crunch. Floaty belt is floaty, doesn't really matter though, because the hips are all the way down here, and we get about 45 going out to the side. They don't go any farther. Going forward, we go all the way. That's fine, that's pretty good. Going back a little bit, not too much. Thigh swivel is a thigh swivel. Double jointed knee, unsurprisingly, is a double jointed knee. That's fine. Ankles go all the way back and not that far forward. And then the ankle rocker is there. I've had significant trouble with these particular feet swiveling on that peg, so be careful, but it is there. So her articulation is pretty much standard. Good diaphragm joint. I'll give it a 7. Everything else is pretty mediocre. So as a standalone figure, her final verdict's gonna be, I'll give her a 6. I'll give her a 6. Not impressive in any way, definitely enough for a spot filler, but you're not gonna wanna handle this figure any more than enough to take it out of the package and stick it on a shelf, unless you're a prevert. All right, moving on to Havoc, one that I was super pumped for. I've always been a big fan of Havoc's character design. I'm an X-Factor fan in general, basically anything X-Men, but X-Factor's awesome. Let's see, he stands about 6 1/4 to the top of his head, roughly 6 1/2, including his poof, and that makes him roughly 15 1/2 centimeters, and let's just say 16 1/2. I know that's not quite right, but that's close enough to give you an idea. And first glance on this guy, well, there's kind of a lot to talk about. Mostly because I think people really wanted this look for Havoc, and they made it, and then they just kind of like said, nah, we made it, they're gonna buy it, we don't have to try very hard. You guys can let me know, because I'm sure there are some of you out there who are like super into Havoc and X-Factor, far more than I am, and you can let me know, but I am almost positive that when he's got the yellow stripes right here, and this general look and the yellow straps, his boots should be yellow. I thought he only had the blue boots when he didn't have the straps here. Yeah, isn't that the case? And also, I thought his jacket was supposed to be blue when he had the yellow straps here. Like for this look, it should be a blue jacket. And if he was gonna have the black jacket, then these wouldn't be here. That's what I thought, and then there were some other details that would be different as well. So that seems odd to me. But they did do some blue shading on like the shoulders and the inside part of the quilty part, so that's good, but the whole thing should be shaded blue. They did do a good job with the X logo, I'll give them that. The belt is painted, so I'll give them a little bit of credit there. But it seems like they mixed two different looks, which maybe is what they were going for, and I guess that's okay, but it seems to me they should have just gone with one look. It's okay as it is in that regard, but I don't know. It seems odd that they only put the shading on part of the blue, or on part of the black. So I don't know what's up with that. The paintwork for the chest is fuzzy as hell. It looks rough. It's a good thing it's covered mostly with the jacket, because that is terrible. The sculpt work for the jacket is awesome. He's got the really poofy 90s jacket, and then they said, hey, what if we ruined it and made his forearms the same size as his thighs? And then somebody else was like, yeah, let's do that. So they did. His forearms are freaking gigantic. Poofy jacket is fine. Poofy jacket does not mean big fat forearms. Having forearms this big makes it look like this jacket isn't poofy. His arms are just stupid fat. He's like the gorilla guy from Umbrella Academy. What the hell? Also, tiny little hands, which are normal sized, but they look stupid up against the big fat forearms. On top of that, they didn't put anything to end his gloves. He's just got gloves, and they're apparently melded into his fleshy fat forearms. It kills the figure. It's basically the same thing they did with Colossus, where they just screwed the pooch completely on the proportions on part of the figure, and it's a total eyesore and it's gross. Those arms are disgustingly big. Like, this looks terrible because of that. And it's so disappointing because they didn't need to do that. His forearms are as thick, if not thicker in some areas, than the poofy part of his bicep, part of his jacket. Which, by the way, look at the thickness of the arm and the thigh. Have you guys ever seen superheroes? The thighs are generally pretty big, and the forearms should not look like he lives in someone's basement. It's just so disappointing. So disappointing. And the problem with that is, like, it's not even something a customizer can fix easily, because if you cut that off to put a new one on, you're right there into the joint. Like, that, the disc part of that joint is down into the forearm some. So that's going to be a total nightmare to try to fix, unless you just shave it down and then resculpt it. But that's going to suck to do too. The head sculpt on this guy, it's not bad. It's pretty good. I think the sculpt is better than the paint, which is unfortunate, because the paint makes it look pretty goofy. His eyes are really big and like anime styled, so it's kind of weird looking. But otherwise, it's not bad. I like the hair. I think that's pretty good. I think the sculpt with a good paint job would look really nice. So there you go on that. All right, so overall aesthetics on this guy, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, because some of it's fine, but then the rest is terrible. So, I also want to point out, like, this guy was a perfect opportunity to do like they did with the Cyclops from the Phoenix 2-pack, where they had the shading throughout, because he's supposed to have like a really stylized shading, generally speaking, for this look, and they did do it. And I was like, when I first saw that, oh, it looks so good. I can't wait to see the rest of the figure where all the shading is. And then I looked, and there's literally no paint anywhere as far as shading goes, except for up here. So it looks more like it's just blue lines rather than shading. Definite bummer. All right, we already talked about accessories. Let's talk about the articulation. It's a bucky cap, so pretty much everything we already know. But the head goes forward and back, ball peg on the top, little bit of attitude. It fits nicely on the neck. I like it. Shoulders, yeah, they go out horizontal, so that's okay. No problem there. Full rotation, that's fine. Bicep swivel's fine. Double jointed elbows, better than 90. I'll take it on a poofy jacket like that. That is good. Wrist swivel and hinge, that's all fine. Ab crunch doesn't work for crap with the jacket on. You can unbutton it, but that's really just for assembly purposes. You wouldn't want to take this off because he's got the big poofy shoulders anyway. So yeah, ab crunch is basically worthless. Waist swivel is fine. Floaty belt, floaty thigh things. Hips go out 45, a little bit more. Full range forward, pretty good range back. Thigh swivel, double jointed knees. We've seen this all before, a lot. We do have a boot swivel. These guys love to fall down, so you might want to throw some glue on there. Ankles go all the way back, all the way forward, and we have a nice swivel. So articulation on this guy gets an 8. I'll give it an 8. Everything works pretty well. Nothing really missing other than the ab crunch, and I'll give that to him because of the jacket. So final verdict on Havoc as a standalone figure, I will do 6. The stupid forearms ruin it. Everything else is just, it's something that could be better, but the forearms ruin it. If the forearms were fine, and I guess the wrist cuffs, the glove cuffs, if those were there, like, I'd be fine with the fuzzy paint and that kind of stuff, because it's a Marvel Legends figure, and that's what we should expect. But they just chose to ruin it, so that sucks. All right, as a 2-pack, really underwhelming, not impressive. I think many people are going to be disappointed that they had to spend money on this. Well, I guess they didn't have to, but you know what I mean. If you're trying to build out X Factor, you did. So, final verdict as a 2-pack, 6 out of 10. And that is strongly supported by the fact that they're X Factor characters and people want X Factor characters in their collection. If it wasn't for the fact that they're part of a team that people want to build out, these guys would easily be a 5, if not lower, overall, just because it's such an underwhelming. You will not be whelmed with this pack. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. I have new videos out just about every single day, at least for now, and thousands of videos already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.